just to see the wee small-headed fella as a freak playing for Dundee.
I was up at 5:15 doing my paper.
We're obviously in good company here in terms of the national team. So is it?
No, you know, really.
Oh, this could take a while. What can be done to promote more young Scottish players? Have you seen the stats this week? Quite a damning.
Recruitment's
a
the thing.
damning number. Back to
Recruitment, the big man's money.
So the stats, just in case anyone's not seen them, so according to new figures this season, of all the Premiership teams, only Motherwell got more than 10% of their minutes for Scots under 21. Only Killie were over 5%. Everyone else was under 5%, including the top 3, Celtic, Aberdeen, Rangers, 0%.
I think we've got to create better players. You know, there's if you go back through it, every single football club in Scotland, in the world, would want to. There's nothing better, a PR stunt, whatever way you want to look at it, bringing your own players through and give them an opportunity. There's nothing better. But if they're no good enough, you can't put them in. Because we speak about managers there, but they're going to lose their job if they don't get results. So if the players that are coming through are no good enough, you can't just say, well, he's under 21, let's give him a game.
How do you learn, this is for you all obviously, how do you learn that they're good enough then?
By watching them in training with your senior players.
Because we're not talking like, starting under 21 every week and make him captain and let him take all the penalties. We're talking about percentage of minutes here. So how do you learn if they can cope in that environment?
I don't know if this sort of short time span now that managers are getting before they get the bullet has an impact
so pressure,
on whether they play.
Ultimately.
I don't know what you think, Gord, but whether they put a young player into the team. My experience of putting young players in teams has been fairly positive, because you can talk to the other players about that so-and-so's debut tonight.
Yeah.
Remember when it was your debut, who looked after you? Make sure you look after them. And it brings a little bit more to the team and to the group of players that you've got. So I quite like putting young players in the team. The problem arises when maybe they make a mistake or something like that. People are very quick just to back out. And I don't know, what age were you when you made your debut?
16.
Who was that for?
Dundee.
16. I made my debut in men's football at 15 with Lahore Juniors.
I played reserve football at 15.
Right.
Got sent off when I was 15 against Dundee United.
Did you?
Deserved
to get sent off?
Well, there was two guys. Do you remember Joe and Sandy White, who played for Dundee United? One was a winger and one was a left back. Right? I'm serious. And I played. It was New Year's Eve. There was about 12,000 in a reserve game at Tardis. Just to see the wee small-headed fella as a freak playing for Dundee. Come and see him. Anyway, I got kicked with the left back, and they're twins, right? So this went on most of the night. It was 1-1, and this one of them hit me, and I wasn't sure who it was, and the two of them were standing right next to me, shouting at me as I was on the ground. So I got up and punched one and kicked the other, and I got sent up. I wasn't sure which one it was. So 50. But you have a point, because I went to Hibs later on when I was 16, and I thought, well, I'm no bad at this. And I went in, and this is what I have to watch for youngsters. I went and played against Shadler, Crop, all these great players, Stanton, all that. I played against them, Jimmy O'Rourke and that. And it took me nearly 2 years to recover from it. I was in the reserves for 2 years. It took me a long time. When you're talking about mental strength and all that, I was wiped out. I actually thought I was useless and all the rest of it after that. It took me a long time to get back to playing. So that's another thing you've got. But there's with the youngsters, the boys have made great points all around. Are you good enough? Because we actually, in this, the media up here, if you play 2 games, you're under 19, you're great. No, you're not great. And we tell them they're great. The other thing is, the managers, because you're probably Celtic, Rangers not get relegated, Hearts shouldn't get relegated, Aberdeen shouldn't get relegated, the Hibs shouldn't get relegated, really. So you've got 5 teams. The other 7 teams, 2 of them are got to go down. So you got to put your neck on the line who somebody's just, all right, and we'll develop them with 5 or 6 games, 10 games. You can't do that, because the fans, it's okay to want the fans.
It's not that you can't do it, but everything's against you to do it.
Everything's against you.
You know, because generally...
But even going back to that, are they good enough? There's no point in shouting. But I get the youngsters in.
Both have made interesting points, and I was the exact same. When you're 14, 15-year-old, and you're training with men, and not on a daily, but at nights when you're in with the team, and then when you go in full time, you're all of a sudden. Even I was playing reserve football at 15. but you're playing with men that meant something to you. And I think we've got a problem in Scottish football right now when, under 13s, 14s, or it's even younger than that now. If you're too good for that age group, move them up. Challenge them again.
That always happened. I never played.
You never played your own age group. Because you were better than the rest.
That's right. So you play.
You have to come up with different attributes and different talents to go and take people on to make things better. Whereas if you look at it now, the best at under 14s stays at under 14s. Oh, got to get game time. Why not move them up to 16?
That's what used to happen.
Yeah.
By the way, there's so much. I mean, unless you've got a 3-hour thing, because everybody knows, and particularly that I study this youth football forever. I mean, for 20 odd years, I've studied this, at least that. And we do so many wrong things. Just for instance, who's the best player we had? Ken Douglas, right? So he never come out that area in Glasgow where he played. Never travelled any more than 35 minutes in a bus. We're sending kids from Ayr to Inverness. It takes you 4 hours to get up there and 4 hours to get back. The minute, but we done this with Jim Fleeting. I said, Jim, have a look at the average touches. Midfield player, good midfield player, 60 touches to travel 8 hours, right? So you travel 8 hours and you're getting less than, you probably get eight touches every hour. And on top of actions, 8 touches. So what do we know that makes you a good football? Your first touch, that thing, that makes you a good player. Until you master that. For instance, I could come in with 2 walls and I'll get 1,000 touches in a half an hour, 1,000 touches outside my front. So that's 14 academy games I could get sitting in here. But we make kids travel. Really, it really should be. You see the government. Do you know what we're doing with these kids? We're making them travel, their mums and dads and sisters and brothers, from Ayr to Inverness or Aberdeen to Hibs and things like that. It's a complete and utter nonsense.
I agree.
Nonsense.
I think it's
Souness never come out of the Edinburgh area. All these players, the boys at Dundee, your David Neary's and all these stuff, they all played in the same area. The Glasgow boys all played in the same area. McGrain.
Would you go back to boys' clubs then?
I'd go back to schoolboy football, youth team football up to about 12-year-old, and then once you
would
get
get 2 games a weekend then. Because you would play in the morning, and I'm just speaking.
By the way,
sometimes you'd be getting 3.
I play
Saturday
morning, Saturday afternoon.
I'll chuck another one for you. I had to do a milk round at 5:30 in the morning on a Saturday before I played the 2 games.
I was up at 5:15 doing my paper round.
I got £1 for a week.
You up at 4:30?
By the way,
one up.
So
I got up
at
at 4:30 and rolled over.
Yeah. The thing about and unlucky the person next to you. So
there's a single bed back there. I was only 14.
or your brother or something like that. Yeah. So there's so much that we can be done and really have a serious think about that. And even the training, kids travelling hours and hours to go to training. It's like Atletico Bilbao. They never travel more than 45 minutes. They produce players, right? They never play against Rangers and Real Madrid, Barcelona. They play in that area. They're saying is we're playing a Saturday morning and we play the game. We don't travel far, and then Saturday afternoon, Sunday, be a kid, enjoy yourself, be with the family, play other sports, play golf, play tennis. Now what we do on a Sunday, we make sure the kid travels all the way up there, and we have them travelling during the week to training facilities.
Yeah, but I think that's a snobbery from the.
Well, it's a snobbery because here's another thing.
I think it's a snobbery from a lot of the parents because we've all been in company and we've spoke to people
they've been conned.
They've been
so
if you take where if I'm going from here, the amount of people who drive past Ayr, Kilmarnock, if you go to Lanarkshire, the amount of people who drive past Hamilton, Motherwell to say I'm at Rangers and Celtic. You've virtually no chance of getting a game at Rangers Celtic further down the line. But the parents want to be saying, oh look, my son plays there, my boy, and it's wrong.
I can tell you a story, and it's very hard to. But this just sums what's all wrong, and you should be going to the government and say you can't allow this. Recently, I know about a young lad who's 11-year-old who's travelling from one side of the country to another side of the country. They train 3 times a week with a big club, and then play once every second week down there. And I calculated out that his father would be driving over a 3-year contract, 1,800 hours driving. They will be travelling 75,000 miles. For the training session, 75,000 miles. Do you know that's 3 times the circumference of the earth to go somewhere else and train? 3 times the circumference of the earth. Now, the kid's in the back of the car, eating garbage. He's doing his homework in the back of the car. He's 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old, and we allow this. And we wonder now the hours he could be in the back of the car could be, as I said to you, mastering the game, mastering the ball. It's again that's elitist thing that you're talking about. And we actually call academies, here's what we call them, elite.
But they're not, because they don't produce players.
Who says they're elite? Now, if you say to
It's a
kids,
title.
so if you say to kids they're elite, that means they think they're very good. Now, the biggest thing of the players I've ever played with, they have humility.
Yep, I agree.
So if they have humility, they will know they're the best, and they're going to try and be
They'll
the
strive
best.
for better, won't they?
But if you call them elite, whether it's coaches, whether it's academies, whether it's players, and you're conning them.
Yeah.
See, in
You're
terms of
absolutely
that
correct.
next
Also that
step,
as well,
though,
like,
see, just to bring it up to that closer bit, that gap, because it seems the bit that everyone struggles with in the stats is last bit of youth football, first team. And how do you get there? And I'm interested in Craig's
You
take
get
because
there because you make your own pathway to get there.
but that,
No, but
Do you know what I've heard when I went there? Pathways. You make your own pathway. Everybody can give you a different story how you got to where you got to international football. You did something. You started. Where's Cowdenbeath you started?
I started with Lochore Welfare. I was 15. I played a season there, and I went to Cowdenbeath behind.
So everybody's got that. You cannot put up.
It's
your
fascinating
pathway.
stories
You
as well.
make your own pathway.
They're fascinating.
To
I love
anything in
that.
life, whether it's be you sitting there, how did you get here? You made your own pathway. You didn't have to go through university or whatever. And people say that you fight to get there.
But to be fair, then there are other countries that we look up to or are in a better place than us. Who? What I mean is,
I'm asking who.
well, you go to any European country,
Which
I'd
one?
imagine they've got significant academy structures. So it can't all be wrong. It can't all be that it's always
We're all
left to the
different
individual.
people.
But see,
But you're trying to give
but-
people
but
a chance.
see,
But
see,
the
the
question we're trying to establish is, should there be more opportunity? I want to know, genuinely know.
resilience in life. Resilience in life is a big thing.
Right, so
It's
how
a-
do you
it's a
know?
huge
How
thing.
do you know
So-
if a player's got resilience to play in the first team if you never see him in the first team?
Because if you take from 13, 14, they're
What?
told.
Let's
They are
come to that
told.
one.
They're told from if they're under 13s and you're the best player, you're told you're the best player.
Yep.
They're never challenged. All of a sudden, they then get to a level where they come out of boys' football and they go into a men's game, and they can't deal with it because they're not the best. Because for the last 10 years, they've been told, you're brilliant, you're brilliant, you're brilliant, you're brilliant.
Yeah.
You then hit that brick wall where it's a case of, I'm not as good as what I thought, but I don't have the resilience to deal with it.
But I'll tell you what,
I don't have the
you've
resilience.
got spot on. I'll tell you, because when you get in that pitch, that's when your true character comes out, no matter what you. But your character's built since you were 8-year-old, all the way through getting knocked back, saying you're rubbish, your girlfriend gives you knocked back, but all these things turn you into a character. So it's like Alec Ferguson. What did Alec Ferguson do? He's best sports psychologist in the world because he made these horrible characters that when they went on the football pitch, they could deal with anything that was chucked into them, no matter what you go. So what is everybody's sitting here, you have to get character building moments in your career where you think you're rubbish, where you're sitting in your house thinking I'm hopeless. You deal with that, you go on, you move on until you get to. We can't be promoting kids, and you're talking about you just chucked away all European clubs did that. No, we're all different, and I'll say it again. We're all different because there's different players, different people are different sizes, different cultures. Spanish are more laid back than us. They play in the sunshine. We are what we are. We have to find a system that suits us.
How do you improve it then?
What do we do?
Yeah.
We don't con kids to start with. We want more in our touch. We get better coaches to speak to them. And if you're not very good coaches, you're enthusiastic and make the people love the game.
I think the coaches things we're quite quick to jump on the Spanish or the Dutch model and everything. But see if you look at those their type of players, coaches, a lot of them have been elite players.
Yeah.
That come the end of their career, they can go back to like what they were as a youth footballer and take that 3-4 year, 5 year, 6 year, whatever it takes to develop as a coach. But they've got a pathway in their mind where I want to be a manager. So they know if I can coach these kids and get these kids better, that helps me further down the line. I think in Scotland, we get a lot of players that finish and all of a sudden, I need a job. What am I going to do? And it's not about developing players. And that's because, players that are playing in Scotland, maybe the money's not there to allow them to go and take time off to go and learn and coaches and develop and become better coaches, managers, whatever it may be. It's a case of, I need a job. I need to get money coming in. I've got mortgages to pay. And the thing is, we lose a lot of players because the finances that you have to spend to get your badges is an absolute fortune.
Yeah.
Fortune. And you cannot
I agree
afford
with
to
that,
take,
Kris.
you can't take that 4 or 5 year out your career.
The big one's spot on.
You can't take that 4 or 5 year out your life when you finish as a footballer to further down the line to say, you need money coming in. Players need money
What's
coming
the
in.
pro license cost now?
It's about $4,000.
No, the
And
pro.
the rest.
No,
It was five when I finished
It
it.
was 20. I think it's
But you
near.
were special. They made sure it was a wee bit extra
See,
for
I
you.
want to go back.
But that's not the full license. The full license is even more than that.
The pro license
But
is the top one.
the A license, it's a lot more than that. So the
20,
I think
but
it's
the A
25.
license is about $3,000 or $4,000. It might be about there, right? And Kris is right. I know a lot of ex-footballers want to get into the game and coach, and I know they're good with people, good with kids. They can show them techniques and things like that, but they've not got this A license. And I've seen people with A license that I wouldn't let them take my dog for a walk.
They can afford to buy it.
Seriously,
Get more
we
or
can
less
get-
buying it.
and we con them into doing, because what we've got to do now is, because it was so much in the academy, we need to fill the spaces with these people, and then somehow
See,
they
that's
get
the
into
worry
the
as well,
game.
because I can remember challenging somebody years ago, and I said that to them. Why do you allow? You know these players are not going to. These candidates are not going to be coaches, but you're hoping that it'll filter down through, and they'll get whittled out, and the coach will come through. It doesn't work like that, but because you will find somebody that gets in front of somebody. I've got my license. I've got my B license. I don't want the top dollar like an ex-football player might want to come in here and coach. I'm happy doing it at this level. You're not getting the elite. You're not getting the thing. But I want to go back one thing you said there, and speaking about the character. But I think everything nowadays is given too easy to kids as well. You speak about that transformation from juniors to, I mean, even Cowdenbeath. It's not the most luxury place, but it was a step up from your juniors to, and then all of a sudden you go from there to Hearts, and you go like there's always a progression.
But that's going back to, he never had a pathway.
He
No,
created
He
it.
made his own
He created
pathway.
it.
So, but Chris, I think this is really interesting because everybody's story is different.
Mhm.
Everybody's story is different. There'll be some crossovers, of course, but the thing for me about this is that I stopped playing football when I was 14. I stopped altogether. I wasn't enjoying it at all, right? And my brother played with local welfare juniors, and I went up to the training when I was 15, and I was so excited. You can imagine going for playing with 14-year-old lads to going up to the training, and you're training with men.
Mhm.
So I was up there for 6 months training, just training. I wasn't playing or anything. And then I got a chance to play. And that was the moment my career changed completely because I got the opportunity. Now, the opportunity was at a level that was fairly low.
But it was an
But,
opportunity.
but also, there was an excitement attached to it because I was going into a men's dressing, maybe your first day in a dressing room with men. You're like, wow, what's going on here,
Yeah, I did. I thought, what is going on here?
I think that's but that's what I mean. Then maybe the core question, because I take your point about he's good enough to get that, but the sort of chicken and egg thing about needing someone to maybe take a chance on you, someone that you then maybe didn't quite think, but then all of a sudden they go into that environment, they thrive. Because I think the point you made at the start is a really interesting one in terms of practically. You're a manager, you've done it recently, you're in there, you're scrapping for survival. You're out of a job in 10 months.
But
What's your incentive to try and play a young player?
My view on this is fairly straightforward. I very much remember my story and me getting opportunities, and I remember what it felt like. And I love putting young football players in. I've done it everywhere I've been, and I get great enjoyment out of that. That's why I do.
Well, that's what we do. To try and make people better. That's why we
Absolutely.
coach.
And
That's the basis of being a coach. If you don't have that ethos, well, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Because players will suss it if you're doing it for yourself. Your job is to make everybody better and to give them a wee bit of what you had as a football player. But you can't ask this question until you got the thing at the bottom also to do. You can't until you develop better players, better characters.
I get that,
Well,
but I'm
that's
just
it.
talking about, obviously in terms of that last bit when it impacts the first team. So I take the point. It's obviously all put in from the beginning, but what does that look like then? How does a bigger league change that? Does that mean there's less pressure where you're worried about going down?
100% for a bigger league. I think that will help to make.
But
I think there's a safety net in the middle then, isn't there? There's a safe.
So
there'll
here's
still
the
be
thing.
relegation.
Right,
There'll
so-
be, there's
But
a safe.
So here's the thing.
I'd go a stage further.
Say if we go to 18
Well,
teams or 20
yeah.
teams or something like that, and people say there's dead rubbers and all that. Dead rubbers are where young players get
Yeah, that's where I played.
their
my-
opportunities. That's where they get their opportunities. They go a chance to get playing games that don't really matter. So even the managers who are not inclined to play young players would feel their job's safe for this season. Go on, let's give the kids an
Because
opportunity.
it used to happen towards the end of the season if you were,
Yeah,
that's
running
right.
it,
You used to get a little
you'd have a
game.
few players playing.
A lot of people got their debuts because of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, 100%,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you look at. I think another thing is as well that there is a snobbery from the top two as such, maybe to buy or go and get from. And I know Celtic have done it better than what Rangers have. But there's a snobbery from the top to go, and it's always been the case where managers, they would go to Hibs, Hearts, and Aberdeen, maybe take their best players. Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen would maybe go and take Kilmarnock, Motherwell, and then eventually get to the bottom of the Scottish Premiership. They would go into the Championship. I don't really see that happening anymore, and it's a problem because
teams don't buy players anymore.
No, but even free. I think you're with frees, you're hoping that.
Do you understand my point?
Yeah, no, I agree. 100%.
It's almost like the clubs are saying, we don't buy players.
Mm-hmm.
We don't buy players.
Yeah.
I mean, I bought a player from down south, from Warrington, for 30 grand at St Johnstone. And it was like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, seriously, what are you doing? Jeff ended up paying it.
Mm. Well, I think Aberdeen used to play $1.5 million for players.
That's my point. Clubs just don't buy.
Dundee United were buying Stephen Presley for 800,000.
Yeah. What are those pressures like then?
Because 700 too much?
Obviously, Chris said it. Let's be honest. In an ideal world, everybody wants to see it. Fans want to see young players come through. Managers would love to see it. That's the ideal world. What are the pressures like?
Listen, can I tell you what since I'm here just to throw it out there, my thing I've been thinking about for 10 years, utopia for me would be an American style league. We don't get relegated for 10 years, or the bencher, and you keep the play that way. So everybody, you have to
so
put
the jeopardy
bencher,
comes away,
takes it away. But also, if I'm a sponsor as well, I take it away for kids. I know if I'm a sponsor and Hibs and Hearts are going to play against each other for the next 10 years, solid. They've got to sponsor them more. Maybe Dundee United versus Dundee. The money, so we'll generate more money if you keep the big clubs in there all the time. And if you generate more money, you'll buy players. Aberdeen wouldn't lose. Yeah, I know. I know fine well it's utopia, but that way of thinking that you keep the best club teams in so they can develop with the players. All the rest of it, and you'll get more money as well.
The counter argument, Gordon, to that is
there'll be loads of arguments to it.
Is the part of the excitement of our league system is the jeopardy.
Yeah, but also we've got to remember we don't have enough good clubs to be involved.
I think that's a problem.
We don't have enough good clubs. But what I'm saying, if you do that, you'll generate money, and everybody will get more money. And then instead of players going down the English Championship for money for maybe 4 or 5 grand a week, and only getting 2 at Motherwell, you could keep them here. The league would develop, they'd get stronger. But as I said to you, with sponsors and things like that, you would get more sponsorship because the new Hibs and Hearts are going to play. The Sky would have that Dundee United, Celtic, Rangers, all these big games, Aberdeen, Dundee United, all the big games can get shown, and you generate far more money.
Yeah, I think listen, whether it would work or not is a different. But the reality is, it's not going to happen.
No, it's not going to happen. This is what you
so the answer is, what do we need to do right now to make this happen?
We get more money and we get more players through.
We're obviously in good company here in terms of the national team. So is it
really.
That's not for me to say. Is there anything? How linked are they? If we're talking about getting young players game time in the Scottish Premiership, and how that can then
it's huge
positively impact the national team.
It's huge.
So how can we do it? Because obviously,
what we've not had over the last, Craig, he had the hardest group I've ever seen. Somehow, because sometimes you can get teams that just develop, and Belgium did development. You're with De Bruyne and people like that. What a team they were. Then Wales suddenly become, and then we were kind of the same. My next group with Lewandowski playing for Poland. We just need to produce 1 or 2 great players.
They have to be world class.
1 or 2 great players. That's what will make the international team.
Absolutely. So you don't think there's small gains of getting game time in the Premiership, and it's sort of everything.
Forget the game time, but be good first. Yeah. Forget the game time. You can put people on there and have time.
That's what I'm asking. So you can't do practical. There are no practical steps at that level. No, it needs to come before.
It needs to come way before that, where you produce the top player, the Lewandowski. If Lewandowski wasn't at Poland, my team would have qualified. Wales, his team would have had a shot. And my team would have shot because they'd Bale. Croatia, Modric. So these guys make teams, right? And I can get you probably other individuals you probably tell me. Ibrahimovic at Sweden.
Yeah.
So we're trying to develop them, but we've just listed all that kind of stuff that stops us from producing that. Physically, we're different as well. People had a giggle at that when I said that, but it's right. We are physically different. We are, apart from Spain, the smallest nation in Europe. Average, right? And some clown said to me, but Brazilians average height. Yeah, well, but I looked it up. There are 20 million people over 6 foot tall in Brazil, right? Because everybody said, but he's small. So that we're difficult with that. So we have to get systems that suit our players. We actually develop technically no bad players, but we have a physical problem with it because they get thrown off the ball, and we have to. There's no core strength with our players.
I think also,
but we have to develop these 2 or 3 great players that will make us different.
I think our issue for a number of years was, and listen, I was part of it. You managed in it as well, but we always seem to have a good campaign and a bad campaign. Which, in terms of the rankings, you were in difficult groups, and then all of a sudden, by the time you had a good one, then you fell off a cliff again. Then you went up again. Then you fell again.
What you want to do when you're in the group is have one big win against the top side.
But also, you now look at it, and Steve and the boys are benefiting from. The Nations League has helped. It's helped because that got us to our first year, and then all of a sudden you.
But the big thing about Scotland is beating Spain.
Yeah.
That's what changed everything.
The thing for me about it's cyclical, isn't it? Really. Yeah. So I look at how many players we have in the English Premier League, and now I've extended to that. To looking, because over the lads are away to Italy.
Yeah.
As well. Now, these are things that haven't happened since way back, maybe Joe Jordan's time, So we've got good players now. I think this is as good a group. I think this is as good a group as we've had for a long, long time. A lot of players playing the top league in England, a lot of players playing abroad, players playing the top league in Scotland. So we've got a better group of players. Now, can you put your finger on it and say, why? Can you? I don't, because I'm saying to myself, how is it all of a sudden we've got these young lads who've been going down to the young lad, the fullback at Everton that went down from
Nathan Patterson.
Yeah, Nathan Patterson and Hickey and there's loads of them, eh? Young lads. This is probably the best group of young lads that we've had for a long, long time.
But you're talking about the front 3 positions. That's where we're not producing in this country. We are actually produce good midfield players.
Yeah.
And saying that, a lot like McTominay's developed in England and things like that. John has went down there. Gilmore has went down there. Left backs,
but they've gone down there because they're good enough. That's why.
Yeah.
But my point being that it's cyclical, and we've got at this minute in time, we've not got that striker.
All wide men that can go and create.
Or maybe
to take people on.
But that's a bit young yet to do that. But what I'm saying, if you look over the period of 15 years, we've not had that magical forward or magical forwards. It changed because the fences are so good. You'd need magic to open them up.
Yeah.
How do you produce a striker? Is it as simple as people used to play with 2, now they play with 1? So there's 50% of the number of them to begin with. I mean,
part of that's true. I think that for a long time there, the 4-4-2 was like nobody would touch it. Mm-hmm. Really, nobody would touch it. So you didn't have 2 strikers. So you'd have generally 2 wingers and a.
Because I think that's glaringly, isn't it? Everybody look at the strength.
By the way, sometimes we would have none.
Well,
I think with the
you're being a bit hard on yourself, big man.
Oh, just when I played with you or under you. There's a death of strikers worldwide. I mean, you can sit here and go
we're
through.
Just a victim of that. We're not especially lacking.
No, we've went into, and by the way, we've created players that's allowed us to flourish because we have got to back-to-back Euros, and we were part of generations, managers, players that failed to get there. We can't deny that.
I would say it was a midfield group that's got you there.
Yeah, 100%.
The midfield,
but it's all the same
great
type of players. I look at, for me, there is a death of that number 9 worldwide. You take Lewandowski right now, Harry Kane. I mean, Messi and Ronaldo, you can forget them because they're freaks of nature. But you look at if you go back 10, 15 years ago, or maybe a wee bit longer, name me the top 10 players in the world. 7 or 8 of them would be strikers. Whereas now, you still got Haaland. You still got to do it now.
That, big man. I think there's still some good strikers out there.
I
really do.
No, but I take your point because
there's that many that I don't. Even the guy at Napoli went for 65 million and things like that. See, there is.
I think they're different, but they're different type. The
old-fashioned
striker now is that one up front. The majority of teams are playing one up front. And I look at us right now, and because we've got so many good midfielders, we can't afford to take one of them out
but usually
to get another striker.
When you usually got one striker, you've got 2 effective wide men. So I don't call them wingers, but we've not even got them. Ours is good, just at 10 yards further back. And our goals come from McTominay, coming from McCann. So they're coming for there. So somebody says, well, a striker, sure. But we're scoring for that area.
I think you're right.
No, so what was
about
the difference then, Craig? You go back to like 90s and in Scotland, we're qualifying for tournaments.
It was easier.
It was easier.
It was easier.
Less
then.
teams.
You only
Well,
had
less
to.
countries.
People talk about Scotland in '82. You only had to. Like Scotland, 1974, they got Czechoslovakia, Joe Jordan's goal. There was only 3 teams in the group, and you both beat Denmark. So it was just playoffs against. Now there's opportunities to get beaten 12 games or something like that against teams that are far more organised now. It used to be everybody was 4-4-2. We played that way. Now everybody's got different systems. It's a different game altogether. So when everybody goes on about the 80s now, it was far easier to qualify then than it is now.
What about
Far
Nations
easier.
League being added to that? Would you like to a crack at that though? Because I take it from if you go 80s to right now, you're saying it's harder. But
I would rather
but
have
that-
anything rather than friendlies. Friendlies were horrific.
Yeah, terrible.
I mean,
because you could say it's easier now than it was even say.
well,
in your time.
there's more opportunity. Even the Champions League, there's more opportunity to get through because everybody wants more better teams getting through. It generates more money. The rest. So there's pathways for everybody to get through. There's far more easier than it was in the Champions League. But no, but I like the Nations League. I've got bored to tears with the Champions League already. I've no idea who's playing who, when they're doing that, who they're playing. What they did, the 17th in the league. What is that all about? Who are they playing? So that team can play Bayern Munich, but the other team that you've just played has never played Bayern Munich. Right, so you've got to go there and think, well, what am I watching here?
Right, we're back with Scotland qualifying for World
Sorry.
Cup.
So to sum up, then, can we as a professional league do more to bring through more Scottish players?
We need to create better players. You could.
So it's below that. So that's a no then, basically.
Well, to be fair, the
Go
boys have been explaining it for the last half
go
hour
back
how we
to-
can
go back to
actually
the
make
start,
it
go back
better.
to the
You don't be
start.
listening.
Go back to the
I'm
start.
just
If
glad.
you-
I'm just glad someone gave Aaron Hickey their chance at 16 to go into that team. I'm glad that Craig mentioned it.
If you go back to the start and what we said here, if the young players are good enough, they will be given a chance. Because one, they're cheaper, and two, you could sell them
Chris,
on.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, but
I'm not like there. I detect that there are some managers who are very risk averse.
Absolutely.
but what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
but they need to be good enough to go in. If they're good enough,
So here's
but
the
people
point.
speak about Lamine Yamal, how he's playing because he's a world superstar.
Yeah, but here's
Quite an extreme example, wasn't it?
No, but it's true. If we create, as you touched on there, if we create a superstar, he will play.
Yeah, we create top players.
He
You'll
will
play
play.
them. If you have doubts about them, you'll go, especially in that, as I said, there's only that window of success in the Premier League, and there's a bigger window of failure.
Yeah.
So the
yeah,
manager will go, I'll go with somebody for England that I can trust.
That's the point.
That's
That's
the
the
problem.
point. Maybe the
league-
circumstances
but
don't help.
the league does that to you, and circumstances do it.
Yeah.
We can't. If we got every manager in, top managers in Scotland, they would do it, play the young ones. You know why? Because they're worth fortunes, and it doesn't matter if they get the sack.
Yeah.
But for the most managers in the Premier League need that because they need to look after their family. That's the basic thing in life that you make sure you've got a job.
Yeah.
Now, if you've got a decision, sack.
Mhm.
I'll go with what everybody wants. This young big player.
But that's what I'm saying. That then
I'm
I think
looking
does
at
sum
that.
up. That is kind of the question. It's not that they're all hopeless and they're all not good enough. It's just that
No,
the
no.
circumstances don't
Wait a
allow.
minute.
Nobody's saying the hopeless, as I say,
Boyd,
but if you're
really good enough,
you're
but what they're talking about is taking a chance on somebody. I'm not so
That's
sure
what I'm saying.
about.
Craig,
but
Craig's
if
telling you.
you're- if you're good enough,
Craig's telling you
they've no
doesn't
option.
allow.
It's
They
like
have- they have
I'm
no-
not talking superstars. Not
like
everybody's a
Leo-
But if
superstar.
you're good enough, by the way,
Brennan Miller, he
if
gets
you're
a game
good
from
enough,
Motherwell
it may be
because he's a
that-
good player.
But it might be, for example, a team needs a right back. There
Yeah.
might be an outstanding right back at somewhere else, and he might look and say, I wish I was at Motherwell now because they're needing a right back.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen. But my point is, if you are good enough, you will force your way through that pathway.
And by the
You'll
way-
force your way into any
And,
starting
and if you don't get into that team,
you'll go somewhere else.
you go somewhere else, and you're good enough, you'll play. If you don't get that, if the manager stop it, you go. But you'll force your way if you're good enough. Yeah, because we've all had knockbacks. But it's very hard to take a chance on a player if you've got to get a sack. That is a problem. That is a problem. And that's what the league is. The boys have got to spot on. Years ago, you could play these games at the end of the season and see these players playing. You can't do that now because if you're in the last five and that bottom six you get,
Yeah.
you're not playing a youngster there. The fans are not like the fans have got to say, I hope plays a youngster today. All their things are hope we win.
But you would if it was exceptional.
Yeah.
You would.
Or if you were guaranteed 5-year managerial contract. There we go. That's the solution.
Listen, I get what you're saying, everything, but I still think
Nathan's got to get the fans will get you.
but I still think if somebody is exceptional, it doesn't matter what their age is. You'll put them in.
It's developing the exceptional players.
But they have to have something, you know, to get in at 16. We had a young boy at St John's, Fran, who was 16 but strong, quick, aggressive. If you've got something, you know, that's exceptional, it allows you to play at that level. Now you're talking about your intelligence, or really intelligent players at 16 are good enough to go in to play against men.
Yeah.
Because they've got something exceptional.
And by the way, the pitches help you these days.
They do.
More.
Yeah, they do.
As a non-physical player. You know what I mean? Because they're that good now.
Yeah.
Even the Astro ones.
Well, I've got to say,
That's some
that's getting the button, by the way. Did anybody watch that on Sunday?
That's next
I
week.
watched Notts
Great
Forest, Newcastle.
That's next
I had
time.
it on.
Great
I had
pitch.
2 minutes of that and went, I can't watch
Great
it.
pitch.
A nice debate. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you comment below. Tell each of us who you agreed with and who was talking nonsense. I'm sure we could be there all day. But enjoyed that. Thank you very much. Top guests. We did say big opinions, big talking points. Kris Boyd, Craig Levein, Gordon Strachan. An absolute pleasure. Thanks for watching.